The battle... What was it? How do you pronounce it? Oh god, Chim, get better at coming up with names for the alien places and people and things. Series 11 finale, the Battle of... So, whatever it's called. And, it's pretty good. It's not amazing, which is kind of par for the course for this series, more often than not. But I'm probably going to end up largely pretty well disposed to the episode because I finally had my... I now get this doctor and I really kind of love her moment, which literally happened in the very last thing that happened in the episode. So talk about waiting till the last minute. So yeah, it was her getting in the TARDIS and saying goodbye to the characters who weren't going to travel with them, and just sort of having that moment of the universe can surprise you. And that's why I keep traveling. And it's not that line was expressing anything that like the Doctor hadn't expressed before, but there's something about saying that line at the end of this adventure and the way she delivered it. It's something, it finally clicked. Like I'd felt before, like I didn't fully get this Doctor. I'm like, oh, she's the joy in exploration Doctor. Because it helps for me when I can categorize the Doctors. It was a big part of why it took me a little while to get Capaldi, because I couldn't really categorize him properly until his second series. So like what I mean by that is, sometimes they're given the labels by the show itself. But I mean, the ninth, just going with new series, the ninth Doctor is the wounded soldier. 10th Doctor is the lonely god. 11th Doctor is the madman with the box. 12th Doctor is the aging rock star. And this now, this is the joy in exploration Doctor, which, it took me a little while to get there. There were hints of it. And actually, it makes me kind of want to go back and watch the series again to sort of see if I appreciate it more. Now that I kind of get what the angle was on her. So, like, it was nice to finally have that moment. So now I'm actually looking forward much more to getting more from her, because we have had the confirmation of Series 12 and when it's happening. I'm actually going to do a whole separate video on that, because, of course, they dropped that, right? I'm going to have a lot of Doctor Who videos this week. Like, a lot. So just heads up on that. So, anyways, so setting aside that I finally got my moment of, like, there she is with the Doctor, the episode overall was, I don't know, I'm debating. I haven't figured out how I'm gonna rank all the episodes of this series yet, but right now it's competing with the Ghost Monument for the Chibnall written episode, written by him alone anyways, that I like best. It's between the two of them, and I think I'm gonna have to rewatch Ghost Monument to make the call on that, because like most of the things that are good in this are things that have been good for the whole series, and the writing is not one of them, although I don't think the writing is terrible here. But I do feel like almost every other element is picking up the slack. So, like, Mark Addy, great get. I'm not sure there was a ton to his character, but he brings a lot to it because he's a really good performer. It was gorgeously shot. Tim Shaw, I actually came to really appreciate that guy's performance. He's actually really good, and I love the voice modulation they did on him. It felt really good. I just wish it had been a payoff and a callback to a villain that had left more of an impression on me than he did, because he didn't leave that much. So it was like, as he appears in this episode, it's pretty solid stuff. I just wish it was calling back to a villain whose first appearance I thought better of. It kind of reminds me actually a little bit of what happened with the Return of the Great Intelligence, because the Great Intelligence showing up in the Snowman, I'm like, he's fine, but when he shows up again the following series, and especially how he's used in Name of the Doctor, I actually really like. But I kind of wish it was calling back to a villain who had better previous appearances. And I mean, to be fair, the Great Intelligence was also a callback to a classic era villain whose stories I haven't seen yet. So, I mean, there was more going on there than that. But, so, like, I'm really mixed on that. And the whole thing with the Ux, like, okay, seriously, Chibnall, you gotta find somebody else to come up with these alien names. Because they stink. They're not memorable. They're generic. They're just, they all just sit badly on my ear. Yeah, the Stenza, the Ux, oh god, they're all kind of bad. The Solid Track. Anyways, it has a weird nitpicky thing that's bugging me this entire series. But seriously, it's been a pating. What the okay. Getting off that. So in any case, some of the other stuff that's going on here, we've got the Ux, and the concept behind them is kind of interesting, but then at the same time it falls into a bit of a trope that I really don't like, which is easily shaken faith. So, like, I get, like, I feel like this episode overall should have been a two-parter. I feel like we needed more time with the Ux to get a better sense of their faith and how it worked and why they had accepted Tim Shaw as their creator, as opposed to just the sheer dumb coincidence that he showed up and they're like, oh, it's him. Like, that I don't love. And then, there's the idea that their faith is shaken so easily, basically, by the Doctor just talking them through it. That's always something that kind of bothers me, because, I mean, the nature of faith, as opposed to, a belief based in fact, is it doesn't make logical sense. That's why it's faith, as opposed to, a scientific process. So when somebody's faith gets shaken by a logical argument, it kind of annoys me, because, like, that's not how faith works. Like, and if you deeply believed this 5 seconds ago, somebody throwing this one little thing is not gonna, like, throw your brain completely off the track. I don't know. This is not even close to the most egregious examples I've seen of this kind of thing. Like, the worst I can think of off the top of my head, go back and watch, well, don't actually, because it's really bad, but Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes movie. Like, a guy who has been really into the legend of, like, the foundation of the ape society has his faith shaken by being told that the guy that the founder of the ape society they believed in wasn't a good guy. He's like, what? Huh? It's like, what? Really? Lifelong faith shaken by the word of one So, like I said, what happens in this episode, not the worst example I've seen of it, but it's just a trope that annoys me. Like, the whole idea was kind of cool with, like, the fact that the planet was going to mess with them, but then it never really does. Like, they even set it up where the Doctor and Yaz take their things off, and there weren't really consequences to that. So it makes me wonder, why'd you even have it as a thing? Like, was it just reverse engineered so that they had these things on their head so the Doctor could stick them on the Ux and stop their mental stuff going out? Like, was that what happened? You thought, well, we need them to have these devices. Well, I don't want to just have the Doctor have them in her pocket. Why could they be using them? Oh, because the planet's like this. Like, I feel like that must have been the thought process, because if you had come from a starting point of they land on a planet that messes with your head, you wouldn't have that have no impact on the story, and it really kind of doesn't, which is weird. I do want to say, with the return of Tim Shaw, the payoff with Ryan and Graham worked well. I really love Graham shooting him, and Ryan's like, hey, I'm like, no, it's just in the foot. I just shot him in the foot. Come on, he deserved that. Don't tell the doc. Like, I thought that was great. I mean, Graham's just awesome and lovely. So all that was really good. Again, it looks really good. Let's be honest, this whole series has been gorgeously shot. Criticize the writing all you want. I don't think anybody has any right to criticize the direction the shooting of this series. It has been gorgeous to look at. I mean, that doesn't fix the problems because, and I mean, I don't know, you know, it varies from person to person. Your mileage may vary. For me, I'm a story person first. I'd rather have a good story with iffy effects than a great looking story that is meh. I do think this episode is better than meh, though, but it does seem like for a lot of the stuff that I like, there's a counterbalance to it that's not necessarily totally negating it, but holding it back from being as good as it should be. I also don't love that the Earth got threatened, especially considering they weren't even on the freaking planet. Oh, he's gonna destroy the Earth. Sure, why not? Let's just threaten the Earth, because that's what we always do in the finales. So, even though we're on a completely alien planet with personal stakes for the characters based on a history of someone they've had to deal with in the past, yeah, no, sure, let's threaten the Earth while we're here. Why not? You know, hey, yeah. I can't help but nitpick, but it's out of frustration because there's a lot to like in this episode. There's a lot I like about the interactions, and the performances are good, and there's a lot of neat build-up. The condensed planets is kind of cool. Reminded me of the pirate planet, actually. The fact that came up. I like that the Doctor gave a little callback. You mentioned the Slitheen turning into an egg. That was fun. I think that's. I mean, just it wasn't the world's strongest finale, but it was a decent finish, and it's one of the better ones that Chibnall himself wrote. Not the highest bar, I am regret to say. I think ultimately the thing, and I'm gonna do a separate video talking about this. Sort of an overview of Series 11. The thing is that Chibnall does have strengths, but his strengths lie primarily in character, which is a lot of what's good about this. Because I mentioned, you know, the Doctor, I finally had my moment with her. Graham, Ryan, even Tim Shaw is working as a character because he's allowed to function a little bit more as a character here. At least I felt like he was this time. But all of the sort of the other stuff, you know, the plot mechanics, it's not bad, it's just kind of there. And unfortunately, Doctor Who is a show that kind of needs decent plot mechanics, or at least we tend to expect them. I don't know. Like I said, separate video talking about that. Plus, I got to do a video talking about the dates for when Series 12 is going to air. Plus, I got to do a video actually ranking Series 11. Plus, I've got overdue Doctor Who video. This honestly might be a week of nothing but Doctor Who videos, now that I stop and think about it. That's not actually a bad thing. It's just, not what I'd planned. In any case, Battle of what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff you can do, because there's buttons and there's links, including one to my Patreon. If you want to support the show that way, it'd be awesome if you did. If you don't, though, that's okay too. There's other links to check out, and even if you don't want to click on those, that's all right too, because at the end of the day, you are the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.